Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Nuances with Nura. So, I was chatting with a couple of friends recently, and something really interesting happened. Two different guys who don't even know each other at all said almost the exact same thing to me, literally a day apart. The first night, one had said, I feel like I have my own personal podcast every time we talk because of how you speak and how you respond. I'm like, oh, it's so sweet. I was not expecting it at all. Then they both said something I've never really stopped to think about. I love how introspective and extrospective you are. And hearing it once and then 24 hours later again was like, what the fuck? So yeah, it made me think, okay, maybe this is something I really need to look at and dive a little deeper into. Now, if I'm being honest, those aren't words I use every day. So hearing two people who don't even know each other describe me the exact same way really made me stop and reflect. I thought, okay, why am I like this? How did I become someone who was always trying to understand everyone? Because I didn't become deeply introspective and extrospective by accident. I think I became this way because as a child, understanding people felt like safety. If everyone else was okay, then I could be okay. And that has taken me a very long time to understand. You know, for so much of my life, I thought my peace depended on everyone else. If I could just help enough, fix enough, understand enough, maybe everything would finally settle. But eventually I realized something. My peace has never depended on everyone else. My peace has always belonged to me and only me. And that was one of the hardest lessons I've ever had to learn. Because the truth is, you can't save anybody else. People have to reach that point themselves. They have to decide that enough is enough. They have to choose to want to change, and that is their choice, not yours, and not mine. Looking back now, I wonder if all this started because I grew up in a home that sometimes felt emotionally unpredictable. Before I go any further, I want to say something that feels really important, so I don't get misunderstood. My parents did the best they could with what they knew and what they had. I genuinely believe that. And chances are, they were raised in a lot of the same ways. That's how generational patterns continue. This isn't about blaming anyone, it's about understanding. I was incredibly fortunate. I always had a roof over my head, clothes on my back, food on the table, and parents who loved me in the ways they knew how. Because I think we can hold two truths at the same time. I can have compassion for what my parents went through, and I can also acknowledge that some parts of my childhood hurt. Gratitude doesn't erase those experiences, and those experiences don't erase my gratitude. Both can be true. For years, I told myself I was always looking for solutions, but the more I've reflected on it, I don't actually think I was looking for solutions. I think I was looking for predictability. Because as children, we can't control adults, but we can try to understand them. Because if I could understand why the adults around me were upset, if I could say the right thing, maybe today would be a good day. Maybe nobody would yell. Maybe everybody would just be okay. And I want to be really clear. I'm not saying this was every day. There were absolutely beautiful memories too. There were good days. Those are memories I still hold on to. But something really interesting is happening as I'm recording this. I can actually hear the fear in my own fucking head right now. What are my parents going to think when they hear this? Because chances are they'll hear it eventually. And then I caught myself. Why am I worried about that? And now it makes me wonder if that's something so many of us do. I realized how much of my life I'd spent worrying about what everyone else thought of me. And then it made me wonder, was anyone actually ever judging me? Or was I doing that to myself? How many of us are actually doing the exact same thing? I feel we spend so much time assuming everyone else is judging us, but most of the time, the loudest judge in our life is really ourselves. So I'll give you a couple examples. How often do you feel guilty because we didn't show up to something? Not because we didn't want to, but like maybe we couldn't afford it, or maybe we were exhausted, maybe we were sick, maybe we didn't have the fucking capacity, and maybe we simply needed a night to ourselves. But immediately our mind goes to, what is everyone going to think if I'm not there? God forbid you miss the family photos, or you're not on the holiday, or you're not at every celebration. People create stories, and then we start to believe those stories ourselves. But for me, I had to realize that none of that was my responsibility to carry. And as I got older, I realized I'd taken that same strategy into my fucking adulthood. I wasn't just reading situations anymore, I was reading people. I was trying to anticipate their reactions, trying to solve problems that weren't mine to solve, trying to carry emotions that didn't belong to me, and trying to keep everyone okay. Because somewhere deep down, I still believed if everyone else was okay, then maybe I could finally relax. Eventually, I realized something that honestly broke my heart. I could spend my entire life understanding everyone else and still abandon myself. I could explain why people behave the way they did. I could have compassion for their childhood. I could see the generational patterns and trauma, and I could understand why they became who they became. And none of that meant I had to stay. Because compassion and boundaries can exist in the same place at the same time. I think so many of us believe that if we understand someone, we have to keep giving them chances. No, you can understand someone completely and still decide that the healthiest thing for you is distance. That is okay. Understanding someone doesn't mean abandoning yourself. And that's a lesson I'm still learning. I don't want to dive too deeply into everything today because I know more of these stories will naturally unravel throughout future episodes. This isn't the whole story, it's just one piece of it. And maybe that's what this podcast really is. Not me having all the answers, just me being willing to ask the questions, trying to understand myself and trying to understand other people, and hoping that somewhere in between, one of those conversations helps you understand yourself a little better too. So, I'd love to leave you with a few questions. Were you taught that everyone else's emotions were somehow your responsibility? Did you become really good at reading people because you were genuinely curious, or because it felt necessary? When did you first learn that keeping the peace was your job? And here's the question I'm still asking myself, guys. If you stopped trying to regulate everyone around you, who would you become? Because for me, I'm still figuring that out. I would be lying if I told you this doesn't still affect me. It does. It still drains me sometimes. Not because I don't know better, but because I care. Because a part of me still wishes things were different. Healing isn't about pretending those feelings disappear. It's about not letting them make every decision for you anymore. And I think that's where I'm at. Still learning, still growing, and still choosing myself. Because at the end of the day, the only person I'll spend every single day of my life with is me. So I hope you choose yourself as well. And if I'm being completely honest with you guys, this has been an energy that's been dying to get out. As I've mentioned before, I really want this podcast to reflect whatever I'm genuinely experiencing in the moment. Lately, I haven't been sleeping well. I've been having nightmares. I've been carrying around a lot from my past, and I'm still trying to figure out what peace looks like for me. I've even been sick again. I'm sure you can hear it. And whether it's connected or not, I don't know. But I do know that carrying emotional weight is exhausting. Maybe tonight I'll still have nightmares. Maybe I won't. But I'm really happy I finally got to say it out loud. It's not about having all the answers. It's about being curious enough to ask better questions, understand ourselves a little more deeply, and hopefully help someone else feel a little less alone along the way. If today's episode resonated with you, I hope it reminded you that you were never meant to carry everyone else's emotions or make everyone else's problems your responsibility. Get curious about where those beliefs came from, because understanding those beliefs might be the first step toward letting them go. So, if you guys enjoyed today's episode, please rate, review, share, and subscribe. It honestly means the world to me, as you all know. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, send this episode to them. You never know what conversation it might start. Thank you for allowing me to share a part of my story with you. This has been my journey, but I have a feeling it isn't mine alone. Maybe your story looks different. Maybe it doesn't. But if today helped you feel a little more understood, then this conversation was worth having. As always, take what resonates and leave the rest. Stay curious, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.